Hey there, folks, and welcome to an episode of From Page to Screen. I hope you've been enjoying the From Page to Screen live casts. That is actually up on its own feed, so if you decide you don't like those, but you do like the movie ones, then you know what to do with that one. For the next month or so, I'm going to keep uploading the live cast onto this feed, and then before long it will start splintering off into its own little entity. Hopefully people haven't thought that the movie podcasts are going anywhere. I would be lost without my movie shows. Now today I've got a rather special episode, as I hope every episode is a little bit special for somebody or other. But I have a guy called Nabil Elouahabi. Some of you might think, don't really know the name. But trust me, if you look in the show notes, you'll see his Twitter name. I'm also going to put his Internet Movie Database link in there, so go check it out. So what follows is roughly an hour's conversation between me and Nabil. I've been chatting with Nabil on Facebook as well as Twitter for a little while now, and we've tried to sort of hook up and do a podcast together. I had Skype on this morning, 10 o'clock, and up popped Nabil. The show was very, very good. I was a little bit nervous because I just am. I'm fine when I'm chatting to Big Pimpin or Bob or somebody like that, but when I'm chatting to someone who I've watched on the screen, or someone who is sort of further up the movie food chain than I am, I do get a little bit nervous. Hopefully that doesn't come across very well. I think Nabil carried me very, very well. So enjoy the show, and if you want to send praise to Nabil or praise to me, check out the Twitter names in the show notes. So until then, enjoy this episode.
This is Big Joe USMC 86 from Open Forum Radio. And right now you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts, From Page to Screen. And while you're listening, or after you're listening, could you do me a favor and all the other guys a favor from Open Forum Radio and check out our podcast too as well. So enjoy the show. Check out Open Forum Radio too. Thanks.
How are you, buddy? Are you all right?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How's life treating yourself?
It's not bad, actually. It's not bad at the minute. I've just started doing a film, which is great. And it's a film called Tower Block, a new film, a thriller set on a tower block with Sheridan Smith and Russell Tovey. And it's by a director called James Thompson. And we started, I went in for the audition on Thursday and then got the job on the Friday. So we started filming on Saturday. So that's been really exciting, actually, because it's something to do, you know.
Is that where you've picked the cold up from?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've just I think we had, I got caught in the rain the other day, which, as you can imagine, was pretty, there was that torrential on Sunday.
There was indeed, yeah, not good.
So basically, that's basically what's been going on, really. I mean, I which is good because I've had a couple of months off. I came back from the States in April, and I've been pursuing the rights to a book, which I've got now. I'm basically heading towards producing as well. Right. So there's lots kind of going on. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of stuff going on. So I've checked out some of your stuff on the blog. You're certainly very committed to all of this. How long have you been doing all this?
Well, I've been around sort of movies all my life. I started off as everybody does, being a fan of films, and then growing up that way. Years and years ago, I'm talking about a decade ago, I used to work in a video store, and then I took over ownership of the video store. I've always been around films. Oh, wow. Then I started thinking, I'm going to write some screenplays. Can't be that hard, can it? And the writing of the screenplays is easy, but marketing them, nightmare. So I found I enjoyed writing them a lot more than I did trying to pursue them.
Right.
And then I stopped writing screenplays, and I wrote the first half of my autobiography, which I finished. And then I started volume 2, because I figure if I'm writing volume 1, I'm never going to be able to write the last words, because I'd be dropping dead at that point, wouldn't I, if I kept in one volume. So I did that, and then I was on a video game podcast last November.
Right.
And I thought I'd love to do my own movie one, so I started that around February. Mm-hmm. And from that, I've come the blogs, and the Facebook has opened up within the past week or so. So I'm just expanding everything and doing what I do, but I really enjoy it.
And your fiancée is obviously involved in all of this?
she was involved in it. I mean, she's more of a reader, whereas I'm more of a film watcher. Although I
Right.
do a lot of reading as well. But I've yet to get her on the podcast because she's a bit microphone shy. So even though we both run the Twitter, it's pretty much me that does the podcast for now. But I will try and get her on there at some point if it kills her, or she kills me, one of the two.
No, fingers crossed it won't be you first, eh?
I hope not. No, but no, I really, really enjoy it. So it was actually a really, really big sort of win when I saw you on Twitter and I recognised you, and I'm sure most people tend to recognise you from one or two roles. Do you get more people with the EastEnders thing, or the Only Fools and Horses role that you did?
It really depends on who the people are.
Yeah.
Often if I'm going past, like a lot of kind of young guys, say, if I'm walking past God, what do you bloody call it? My brain's not working. When you're walking past like a building site, it's got kind of young dudes. They all love the Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
And as for EastEnders, it really kind of depends where I am, but the EastEnders things, it's kind of like a whole lot of kind of mainly younger guys, younger kind of Asian guys as well. You know, they kind of really identify with my character, even though I'm not Asian myself. My background is North African. But between that and between Ali G in the House, I think that also got a lot of people kind of, a lot of people recognise me from that as well. So.
Now, I initially recognised you when I saw you on Twitter from EastEnders, because that was around the time I used to watch it every single week and whatnot. I've sort of dipped in and out of it. So I'm like, I recognise that dude. So onto the IMDb, I'm like, it is. And I told Annette, I'm like, check this out. It's EastEnders. I was getting all excited and giggly. Looking at your filmography, you've done tons. Does it get annoying when people are like, Gary, and like, really, that was one episode? Seriously, one episode I've done, so look at all the other stuff I've done.
I know, well, that's often that's the way, isn't it, though? I mean, you kind of get remembered. I mean, it's like, not that I'm comparing myself to Alec Guinness, but I remember reading an Alec Guinness interview and, him being remembered, obviously, for playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, although he hated it.
He did. Did you ever hear the story where a little, I don't know how old the child was, that went up to him and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he said, I will sign this poster or whatever it was for you if you promise me never to watch Star Wars again.
No.
Yeah, that is how much Alec Guinness apparently hated Star Wars.
Wow.
But then on the other flip side, I can't remember which actor or actress it was, but it was a case of, some people might think it gets annoying for being remembered for one specific role because you've done loads. But then others think, you know what, it's really nice to be remembered.
Period.
Yep.
Exactly.
If people have seen you on a role or on the stage or something, they remember you years and years after the fact. You obviously made an impact, so therefore that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely enjoyed elements. I think it's one of those things. Often you enjoy things more in hindsight. At the time, you don't really know what you're kind of in it. So you don't really see the effects of it. But later, you noticed, you noticed that there were certain kind of storylines and certain things that you did which really made people kind of laugh and enjoy themselves. But 1 second, just my girlfriend very kindly asking me what I want. But it was it's a privilege, it's a privilege really. And I think sometimes actors can get, myself included, can get really, what's the word? You just take it for granted, don't you? Sometimes you take it for granted, and then you just need a few months of unemployment before that kind of reminds you of having a little bit of kind of humility, really. Because there are hundreds of thousands of people who would really, really like to be in my position, kind of working, and every now and again I do have to pinch myself and say, I have a great life, really. I have a great life. I've worked with some great people. I know some really cool people who are involved in my work, and relationships are developing to continue doing some really good work. But the other thing as well that I've noticed is that often when people remember you for one thing, more often than not, they'll go back and look at the other stuff that you've done, because it's kind of like an entry point, really, isn't it? It's just they'll go, oh, and he's done films as well. Oh, and he's done theatre. So if anything to kind of get them in the room is a good thing.
I mean, I'm going to go back, looking at your IMDb, I've seen quite a few of the films that you were in.
Mm.
And I'm going to go back and rewatch them just so I can point and go, that's like Sum of All Fears.
Yeah,
good film.
That was a weird one because that was kind of one of my very first jobs. And again, it was only 3 or 4 scenes in it, but it was a huge shift in kind of the scale of job that I was on, because suddenly I was kind of flown out to the States I think I was flown out to Canada for a costume fitting. It was fantastic for a weekend, and the guy who made it, a chap called Phil Alden Robinson, he's a really lovely man, lovely director. And, he's done some good work, he's done some good work. Same with people like, one of my favourite directors who I know is a huge kind of credible person in this country, which is Michael Winterbottom. Yeah. And having worked for him a couple of times and, counting him as somebody, as a friend, it's amazing, really. It really is.
Do you ever get? I mean, I'm listening to you rhyming all these names off, and I'm like, you've met the dude that wrote Sneakers. I love big fan of Sneakers that Phil wrote. Do you ever? Yeah. Do you still get starstruck, or have you become less than you would have been sort of 20 years ago?
Well, it's funny because the thing. This can sound really weird. I get more. I'm really into kind of like I don't know. I generally don't get too starstruck unless it's. The things that really impress me, Stuart, that are like, people like bloody Nelson Mandela, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the kind of people that really kind of like blow my head. I really have a huge appreciation for talented people. One thing that I know for sure is also it's not just talent, it's like really, really, really hard work. People put in the hours. That's what people don't realise. People put in the hours. I mean, I've known this for myself. If I put in the hours, like, as it were, targeted practice, if you put in the hours, you get decent results. If you don't, you don't. And I think that's probably the case. So often, I even though of course I see certain people as having more talent than others per se, often I see that the people who we deem as the kind of oh my god, they're amazing, they're bloody really, really hard workers as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realise how much work does go into a film. They look at it and think, 2 hours, how long does that take?
Oh, God, years of people's lives. I mean, years. Things are sitting around, on a desk or on a computer or in a file for 5-6 years before they even pick it up, And I remember talking to Ayub Khan Dean, who wrote East is East. I remember he'd written that. And it sat around for 10 years. He had that rocking around before it got picked up. And sometimes it's funny as well because sometimes, the time's not right for a specific project or something to happen.
I mean, they do sit around for a long time. Clint Eastwood sat on Unforgiven for about 10, 15 years, didn't he? Before he then realised he was old enough to play the role. So
what a fantastic film that was. So somebody like him, I have a huge respect for, just simply because of the kind of scale of his career. I mean, how long has he been around?
Been around a long time. He was actually told when he was a sort of youngster, not like really young, but when he was walking onto one of the film lots by some executive, give up because you're too ugly to be on film.
Is that what he was told?
Yeah, there was him and I'm trying to remember who the other actor was. I think it could have been somebody like Burt Lancaster or something like that, but these two, Clint and his mate, were walking and somebody said, seriously, you're not going to make it. You're too ugly to be on film.
Oh my God. I think there you go. Whoever that was is eating his hat.
Whoever that was is probably long gone and nobody even knows his name, so that just shows you how much that executive knew.
Well, I think the other thing that shows you is that you have to just be tenacious.
Definitely. You've got to learn to accept the word no as well now and again. Yeah. I mean, I found out when I was trying to sell screenplays, it's like you've got to develop a thick skin to a certain extent.
Did you ever manage to sell any?
No, I managed to get a few looked at, and the closest I ever got was a woman at Fox, for Fox Searchlight, and she was getting me to send these emails through with pictures and stuff, and then she quit her job and went back to college. So it's like, and I think I just realised that I just enjoyed. I was gutted, but I just really enjoyed the journey at the time, and I think that's what you've got to do as well. You don't beat yourself up if you don't quite get what you're after. Just enjoy
Right.
it while you're doing it. So.
Right.
Now,
Well,
you've done a lot of theatre as well as movies and TV. If you had to choose one of those, what's your preference on them?
well, God, this is always one of the hard ones because
Uh-oh.
it's often asked. No, I think that I think what it is each thing gives you something, rewards you in a different way. And it just depends on what kind of reward you're after for that year. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
for instance, the thing about film is that it doesn't reward you immediately as an actor because you're just a very, very small part of the cog. Even if you're one of the leads, I mean, it really is down to how the director wants to use you. Now, obviously, the higher you are in that kind of hierarchy, the more input you have and the more you're able to be part of that sculpting process. But basically, you kind of go in, it's all very fragmented, basically. So you don't have that camaraderie that you get out of theatre.
Yeah.
Theatre is amazing because it's so immediate. It's about the actor. Theatre is about the actor. It's about the actor and about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me. And one of the things that having done this tour for nearly 2 years, on and off, you kind of create a second family, and it's really moving. You kind of get to know people, and then of course TV. I think is I consider TV like my bread and butter. That's probably out of the three. It's the least exciting for me. It's kind of really just painting by numbers, just getting on and doing it. Obviously, depending on what TV you're doing. It depends if you're doing, a soap. When I was on that, you pretty much kind of went in and you just kind of worked really hard. And the interesting thing about something like Enders was, what I learned there was the ability to pick up a page and just learn it in like seconds and just go on, just kind of get on with it. It's a real factory. So those are the three kind of differences. At the minute, because I've done my theatre spell for the last 2 years, I'm really. That's why I'm pleased I'm doing this film. I'm really excited about film.
I think the correct answer not the correct answer, the best answer would be to have all three, wouldn't it? And just juggle them, so you never get sort of stuck in a rut with one of them.
Which is exactly what's been. I've been fortunate like that. I had 2 years of theatre, and before that, it was mainly television. Television and film, and then TV, television and film. Was it TV? I was in Enders, then I did Path to 9/11, then I did Generation Kill, then I did a couple of other things like Strike Back and something else, I'm sure. And then, of course, I did the play. So that's been really good, and now I'm back on film again. And I'm excited about the film because the relationship with Ronnie Thompson, who's the director, kind of came about like this. He liked my work, he's a director. And I had a few friends of mine, Noel Clarke and Ray Panthaki, who were working on a film that he'd done called Screwed. Yeah. That had a theatrical release for a couple of weeks. And I was kind of to and froing, just bantering away. And then eventually we kind of stayed in contact and said hello. And then he called me in to audition for this part. So it's funny, isn't it? Yeah.
I've actually got about 2 or 3 of your things downstairs that I've not yet watched, which happened to be on my media centre before you and I sort of started communicating. I've got Generation Kill downstairs and Strike Back all queued up to watch.
Well, the Strike Back, not unfortunately, the Strike Back I felt was, I was only really a cameo. I just did one episode, but it was great to be involved. I took the job really because it was a good holiday and good money.
Don't blame you.
Originally, I'd gone up for a different part, which was much more substantial. But Daniel Percival, who's the writer, he basically said to me, look, we'd really like to use you for something different. It's a much smaller part. Would you please do it? And I said, of course I would, because 4 weeks in South Africa isn't bad, is it?
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Exactly. But Generation Kill was amazing, and working with kind of a group of 30. Well, there was 35 Marines, and I played a character called Mish, who was a translator, and basically, true life, a real life guy, and he He was such a brilliant character. He was so funny. And I worked with a woman called Andrea Calderwood, who's a producer on that. And she'd produced Last King of Scotland. Funny enough, she produced... she recently produced I Am Slave, which was a TV thing. Anyway, and the point being is that I was out there for 6 months on and off. I was in Mozambique, Namibia, and South Africa. That was incredible. Wow. Jen Kill was amazing. I think it's a very interesting job as well. Very interesting look at kind of marine, the war from the Marines' perspective. That's really what it was.
It puts you on the HBO radar as well, doesn't it? Those guys do some quality stuff over the years.
I mean, The Wire is one of my favourite shows of all time. I mean, have you ever watched it?
I have. I've watched The Wire. Yeah, pretty much anything with HBO's logo on it, it's like I'll go for that because
I've
never let down.
They've done I think what they've done with Sky in terms of kind of hitching up with Sky and doing the Sky Atlantic is really clever.
Yeah,
it just means that now their branding, Sky are kind of rebranding themselves as the British, the European HBO, aren't they?
They are. I don't know what HBO will think of that in the long run, but it's definitely good for Sky.
Yeah, I mean, it also just means that they're able, because Sky have got a lot of money at the minute. They seem to have a lot of money and are heavily kind of investing in their dramas. They're kind of nowadays when you watch something on Sky, you can see there's that glossy thing that they're going for, which is definitely inspired by the old HBO. So
most definitely.
Yeah. But let me tell you about this film then, because this film's pretty interesting that I'm doing.
Go for it.
Yeah, basically Ronnie Thompson, as I said, I'd kind of followed him through a friend of mine who was working on a film with him, and he's an interesting character. He used to work in the prison services. I think he was a prison officer, and then he wrote this film Screwed, and now this is he's directing. This film Tower Block, which was written by, I think it's James Moran, one of the guys who wrote Torchwood, Doctor Who. He's written for TV, various TV things. Plus he did a film called Severance a few years ago, I believe.
I've got that on my DVD collection. I love that movie.
Ah, well there you go. He wrote this. I haven't seen Severance. I don't know what it's about. Is it a horror?
It's like a light-hearted horror where Danny Dyer's in it. There's a bunch of people going on a team-building exercise to sort of Eastern Europe.
Right.
And then it sort of turns into a little bit of Hills of Eyes where people are bumping them off one by one. But it's funny. It's quite gruesome, but it's light-hearted. So it's very funny. I'd recommend it.
Well, James has carried on in that same vein, except now the gruesomeness will be happening on the top floor of the tower block. We open and we basically just get introduced to a bunch of characters who all live up there, and something happens without giving it away. Something happens, and then before they know it, they can't get out of this tower block. They're stuck up there, and every time they try and escape, somebody's shooting at them. A sniper is shooting at them. And he kills various characters, and the film is about why this is happening and how the hell are they going to get away from this. Really taut kind of thriller, really, and good cast. I mean, I really like Sheridan. She made a big name for herself in the theatre circles for Legally Blonde. She did Legally Blonde, and you know her from television from 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps. She did that for years. Kind of a blonde, bubbly, teeth and tits. You know? Yep. Really lovely woman as well. I mean, I know Sheridan. I'd worked with her. Actually, we hadn't worked together, but we used to hang out quite a lot. Just kind of hang out, and we had lots of mutual friends. She's a very sweet woman, and she's also really good. And I think this is her kind of. It's great for her to be kind of breaking into features. I'm not sure how much feature experience she's had, but I'm sure whether it's a lot or a little, she'll be great. But and then Russell Tovey, you'll know his face from Being Human. He's got quite a prominent head, and he's in it as well. And then there's myself, and there's a rapper called Kano, who's quite well known in the UK. And so they've kind of got themselves a really kind of solid, a solid British cast, really. kind of, a good national cast. And the films, we started filming on Saturday, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant. We had this whole action sequence that we had to kind of get our heads around. Lots of chasing this poor bloke down the corridor and then just laying into him. So there's lots of kind of stunt work and things like that. But I'll tell you, I'm genuinely really excited about the film, and even though it's not, it's kind of like more of a supporting part. It's, as I said, it been. For film, it's probably been the last bit of film I did was for Jason Statham on Blitz.
Yes,
but that was a kind of like, I just literally just, again, it was a blink and a blink. I was only in 3 scenes, but weirdly enough, they ended up using my scene as their official trailer on Empire. So people kept on phoning me and said, "No, you're one of the leads on Blitz."
Well, kind of. Sort
yeah,
of.
well, lovely little part, but certainly not one of the leads. So
it's good that you're in the trailer, though, because, as you said, those phone calls were generated. So.
They were, and it seemed that people seem to be. It always surprises me, and I genuinely mean this. I'm sincere when I say this. I'm always surprised that I have kind of like fans, really.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I guess, because it's just what I do. Do you know what I mean? I don't get. I'm not very kind of. I've seen some of my fellow actors who can get quite up themselves a bit.
Yeah.
And can be, a little bit entitled. I don't have any entitlement to this. This is only this. This could all go away tomorrow.
It could, but you've just got to enjoy it while you're doing it. And
exactly. So, I mean, I'm always really kind of quite flattered when people genuinely like my work, and then of course what that does is you see your work through their eyes. Then you have a different type of appreciation for it, because then I look back and I think, actually, you know what, I have had a career, and I have had a decent career, and and that's. And long may it continue, because sometimes you just worry. The thing about acting is often once you've put the phone down and once the job's finished, as it were, you don't know when your next job's coming in, and that can be really kind of awkward.
Do you ever get over the nerves? I mean, going back to when I was trying to do the screenplays, I because I worked in the video business at the time, I had all the telephone numbers for the film companies and the producers and this, that, and the other. And I would never, ever get over the nerves of phoning up a TV company or somebody's assistant to have a conversation, because I always thought if I mess up this one phone call, I could blow something that could turn it, I could mess it up. Never, ever got over the nerves.
I think nerves are always going to be there, and I just think it's natural. Nerves are natural, but it's about what we do with them. I think that's the key. And for me, I think as time has gone by, I've learned more and more how to focus my nerves into the right behaviours, because also the other thing is, whatever you're feeling, I would say 9 times out of 10 the other person's feeling that too.
They are. They're just hiding it, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And it just becomes like poker, doesn't it? Nobody knows what's going on unless you really tell them,
no.
or you show them. So, I mean, I'm as an actor, one has to kind of be used to speaking to people anyway, so that doesn't bother me so much. I get nervous when I go on stage. I get nervous as hell just before I go on stage. Because that's when I question whether I've got it or not.
Right.
Because as an actor, you don't, you can kind of talk the talk and you can go to the premieres and you can do this, but actually, when you're on stage, there's nothing there between you and them, and that becomes nerve-wracking. I used to have such panic attacks before I went on stage. It'd be unreal. I'd literally think, what the hell am I? What the hell am I doing here? Who am I? Honestly, be backstage and thinking, I cannot believe I've put myself in this position again. So, which is really weird, isn't it? Because you just think, well, you clearly love it, but there's that moment every time just before I go on stage where I just think, God, I wish I didn't do this.
See, what I would say to you every time, if we were standing in the same room and you went, I'm really, really nervous, it'd be like, just look at your CV, look at your resume. You know what you're doing. You've done it. It's not like it's your first thing. It's your first performance. Look at your resume.
Well, I think
you can do it.
This is it, isn't it? It's just to remember that, you've earned your place, that, you're you're here not because you're here because you deserve to be here. Do you know what I mean? But that's pretty kind of cool too.
So you would say you were looking to get into producing and stuff like that. How are you going to focus on that? Are you going to try and produce projects that you're in, or are you going to try and like the book that you've secured?
Well, yeah. Basically, what I've done now is I'd found a story, inspired by true events, a miscarriage of justice in the early 70s, and basically it was a corrupt policeman at the helm of the London Transport Police, who was later found out to be corrupt and subsequently punished. But it's the story of how he was fitting up young males in South London, sending them to jail. And it's a really fascinating read, and quite horrific in terms of what the police were able to get away with, and also a bit topical. I mean, because it was all about bribery, brown envelopes, brown paper bags with money in them, being slid across tables, and so I secured the rights because one of the chaps who had basically gone to jail for nothing wrote a book, and we're working together to transform it into a three-episode, three-part drama. Now, the weird thing with this is there's nothing in it for me. There's no part in it for me. But I really, really respond to the story. I really like the story. I think it's a really important story and it needs to be shared. And I think it's also really fascinating in terms of some of the characters. So,
and then you've just named the part that's important for you there, the fact that you believe it's a story to be shared and it's a real character, so you've just answered your own missing question there.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be in the public domain, basically, and the characters are strong, and there's an arc, and there's lots of stories, so it can work. So I've kind of got together with a couple of very experienced producers who had produced. Well, one of them had produced a couple of Michael Winterbottom's films, and we'd stayed in contact. Her name is Anita Overland, and she's very, very kindly helping me put this thing together.
Anita.
Yeah, which is really cool. So I'm kind of, it's a process which is new to me. So I'm quite nervous about it because I don't know if I'm like, this is uncharted waters. But I think it feels like a natural progression to kind of go from acting into producing now. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited. I really am excited. The stage that we're at the minute is I have a writer on board who's writing, and I have Anita helping me package it. Then once that's all done, hopefully we'll take it to a broadcaster, and someone somewhere will agree that it's a story that's worth to be told.
That'll be the nerve-wracking part, won't it? I think going into, because you've sort of built this story up and you've packaged it all together, so you know everything you need to know about that project.
Yeah.
To then slide it across the desk of somebody who hasn't been as passionate about it as yet.
Yeah.
I would think that would be a bit.
Well, I think part of the interesting thing is when I have been going to people I know, directors, actors, producers, people I know, and civilians, and I've told them the story, they've all said, wow, that's a really cool story. And hence why I needed to make sure I had somebody who was very experienced, who could kind of, take me under her wing, really, and support me when I go through this. Because really what I'd like Anita to do is kind of come on board with me as a co-producer. But that, she hasn't decided to do that yet. But, all is moving in the right direction, that's for sure.
Good. That's all you could do, isn't it? Get it moving in the right direction.
Exactly.
So you're looking at turning it into a 3-part.
That's right. That's basically it for the minute. Turning it into a 3-part, and I think it lived beautifully on Sky or on Channel 4 or somewhere like that. But we'll see. I mean, for the moment, we just need to get the scripts in order. And as I said, I've got a really fab writer who's also a friend of mine of 20 years. So. It's all coming together. It's all very adult.
As long as you enjoy doing it, that's...
Exactly.
So that is a huge part of it.
But the plan also at the minute is to head to the US in September, to try and get some auditions over there as well. So we're kind of working on both fronts really. We're trying to kind of create a vibe over there and over here, and it's quite challenging.
I bet it is. You've got to sort of learn to juggle, I would have thought, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how many times have you been out to LA? Quite a few times. Been looking at your resume. I'm guessing you have been. But
well, I have not as many times as you'd think. I mean, I've gone out. How many times? I've been out there a few times for pleasure, just to see a couple of friends, and then most recent, I have gone out there to try and pursue work. Now, work over there. There's a saying in LA: you never take a bad meeting. You never do. Everybody thinks you're wonderful. Everybody says you're incredible. They all think that, but really, it's everybody's nervous about being the man or the woman to have missed the next thing.
Yeah.
So because of that, they're all very kind of, oh yeah, we really like you, or oh my God, you're great, and then you just don't get a phone call. So they're a funny bunch. However, that's where the work's at.
It is, isn't it? That's where the big advertising's at, isn't it? That's pretty much where everybody who pays their ticket money is watching for the next thing to come out of.
Exactly.
Me, I don't tend to. I look for the new British films coming out, and a lot of the time, the new Irish films. For some reason, I quite like films that are set in Ireland. For some reason, they're just.
Well, I think they've got. They're the old poets of Europe, aren't they? Really, the Irish are the arts is very much part of their culture, and in terms of kind of. I'll tell you what I wanted to watch, which I don't know if you'd seen, is Hunger.
I haven't. That was on my sort of watch list quite a while back, and it was one that I've not managed to pick up, but that looked very, very good.
Yeah. Well, myself and my partner went to see X-Men the other day because Michael Fassbender was in that.
Yeah.
And they do a really good job, these boys.
Apparently, it should kick off a franchise, shouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was. I really like James McAvoy, and together they made a really good team. I mean, and the supporting cast were pretty awesome too. But in terms of kind of, broad stroke blockbuster, it was fun and entertaining.
Yeah. Unlike Transformers 3, which I watched, and I could appreciate the fact that it was visually stunning, but it was exactly what I knew the film was going to be, no more, no less, and it's like, eh. And on the same day, I went to see the new Tom Hanks film, Larry Crown, which I really enjoyed because I had no expectations set on that one at all, and it was just nice.
Was it good?
Fluff. It was. It's Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, just being human. It's just a nice, easy film to sit and watch and put your feet up, and you don't end up with your eyes bleeding like you do after you watch Transformers 3. So it was it's just a pleasant film. Right.
Because I'd seen on Rotten Tomatoes that Larry Crown hadn't really got very good reviews, so it put me off a bit. But I may give it a second chance after your critique.
Yeah, it's got. I mean, it's a Tom Hanks sort of romantic comedy, and that's exactly what it is. I don't know anybody that doesn't like Tom Hanks.
No,
I can't stand him. He's horrible. He's Tom Hanks. He's good.
Yeah. I'll have to put that on my list then.
Definitely. I'll put The Hunger back on mine as well, seeing as I'd forgotten about that one. But I tend to watch any and all sorts of movies. It depends what mood I'm in. But
well, you should certainly. I mean, there should be a Facebook, Twitter kind of feed eventually. About Tower Block, so it'd definitely be great to have your support on that. I'm quite confident. I think it's going to be good.
It does sound it, and you've definitely got the crew behind it. So.
Yeah, I mean, my next day's filming is tomorrow, so we shall see. We shall see if the vibe is still good. But it was, it was fantastic. Saturday was a fantastic day, and they seem to be getting on with it.
You should get yourself on the DVD commentary when you get ready to produce that, because those are hours of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So is there any sort of projects that you would be really, really eager to get? People that you think, that's my sort of holy grail. That's the person I want to work with.
Oh God, I mean, I'd love. There's a chap called Dominic Savage who I went in to meet recently, and he's putting a project together which is all improvised. And I love that idea of that. I mean, that would be pretty amazing.
Well, you'd have the jump on a lot of people because you've got the theatre background, haven't you? Which is maybe not so much improvisation, but you've got a really think
be
on your
present.
feet, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, when I think about who else would I really, I'm quite easy like that, you know. I mean, as long as writers, I'll tell you who's a fantastic writer, Tony Grisoni. He's a writer who I'd really like to work with. I'd worked with him on one of Michael Winterbottom's films at the beginning of my career. I just think he's a really good writer, and I know he's been writing some stuff about gangs in North London, in Kingsland, and you know, that would be amazing. But I'm quite easy like that. I mean, I don't have any dying wishes to work with a specific director. I mean, if you think even kind of the US wise, all my kind of directors. People like Martin Scorsese, of course, in his heyday, I would have loved to work with him.
Yeah.
Not to say that he still isn't good, but could you imagine being around in the 70s and being part of that group of guys?
Wandering around on Main Street set, that type
Yeah.
of thing. It'd be crazy, wouldn't it?
I'm sure you've read it, but you must have read it. But there's a fantastic book called Raging Bulls about the film.
Easy Rider, Raging Bulls.
Easy Rider, Raging, yeah. Really, really good read. And also very revealing about that period.
To me, that's my favourite era of films, is the 70s for some reason, because it was before the glamour of the 80s.
Yeah.
And the corporations of the 90s.
That's
and
right.
70s, they made films the hard way, didn't they?
Well, I mean, also that was when that shift from LA to New York happened, because films were being made in New York because there was no money. And it's interesting that, exactly as you said, what happened is all the money people kind of were left out, and suddenly you had people who were artists making stuff. And another thing that was interesting is it wasn't just, there was a crew of people, so you kind of had your collective. So Scorsese had his collective. Even later on, if you think about people like Spike Lee, they have their collective. They have a group of people that they get together with, and they back it. They put it together. I mean, I remember reading with She's Gotta Have It that Spike Lee ended up, and the other actors, they ended up getting credit cards and maxing them out. That's that's the kind of commitment you want. Otherwise,
Kevin Smith routine as well. That's how he did Clerks, wasn't it? By
is that
maxing his cards out. Yeah.
Is that how he did it?
Yeah, he just got lots of credit cards, maxed them all out, filmed in the shop that he worked in overnight. That's why the shutter was down, because it was night time when they were filming. He did it very, very much on the cheap. So.
Wow.
I love those sort of stories.
Yeah,
I went to a studio and they gave me £26 million.
Yeah, well. But also, it really shows a drive. You know what I mean? It really, really shows a drive. But for the moment, I'm happy with the way things are going, and I'm excited about the rest of the year. After having a kind of 3 month kind of hiatus where I was concentrating on the book and producing, it's great to be acting again, really.
So, what is the next project that hits the screens for yourself? You've got Junk Hearts, haven't you, which is due to come out at some point.
No, I've got nothing due to come out now. I've got the next thing that will hit the screens will be Tower Block, and that will hopefully be in a year or so. But in the interim, I'll certainly be keeping you updated about the producing and any other projects that I might have found myself getting attached to.
That would be wonderful. Yep, that would be wonderful. So what, just sort of slightly off your sort of working career, what's the next film coming out this year that you think, I want to go to cinema and watch that one? Have you got anything that's exciting you?
I think there's a few films at the minute that are out that are exciting. I mean, I want to see The Separation, which is this Iranian film about a divorce that's going on in Tehran and a middle-class family. I like foreign films. I've always liked, I love world films to kind of get an insight into other people's lives and their way they communicate. And then there's I recently saw Senna, which was really moving.
Yeah. And
there's a few other films. I mean, I want to see Larry Crown. What's that? Oh, The Tree of Life. I mustn't forget that.
That's getting divided reviews. Some say they don't like it, and others say they love it. And I'm a Terrence Malick fan. I think The Thin Red Line
that was beautiful,
phenomenal. I love that film. But The Tree of Life is getting, from those that like it, it's getting really, really good reviews. As in, wow.
But he's definitely out there, isn't he? I mean,
He is.
But I think if there's space and place to be out there, that's the one, isn't it? Really, on film, go for it. And I mean, he's made 5 films in 20 years or something.
He has, hasn't he? And he's made 3 of those in about the past 10 years, hasn't he? I think because he did Thin Red Line, and then he did The New World, and then he's come back with the.
Did you see A New World?
I saw the shortened version because there's 2 versions of it. There's a really super duper long 3-hour plus version that's around, and then there's a 2.5-hour one. I saw the 2.5 one.
And what's it like?
It's all right. It's not as easy to get into as the Thin Red Line.
Right.
The Thin Red Line I was straight into from the beginning. The music, and I'm always listening to
beautiful music. And it was shot beautifully.
And so it's similar to Thin Red Line, but it's not, to me, not quite as good because I really, really do like the Thin Red Line.
Right.
So I need to go back and watch the proper version, the full long one, I think. But Tree of Life does look good.
Well, I think The Tree of Life is going to be the next thing before, and it's one of those films that you do want to watch in the cinema.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, one of the thing that I notice whenever I go to the movies, or certainly when I watch a film on TV, is that, the whole experience is so much richer when you go to the movies. It's just, that's what films were made to be watched on, not on a small screen. I'm quite snobby like that.
I mean, TVs might be getting bigger by the day, but you can't reach that cinema audience.
No.
Can you? Although I get annoyed by people faffing around with the mobile phones in the cinemas, so it's like...
Yeah, well, they should just switch up. But I mean, I think, when a film is filmed, it's filmed primarily for a cinema release. And that's. I mean, I remember recently, well, not recently, probably about 2 years ago, seeing one of the Sergio Leone films at the British Film Institute, watching one of his, I think it was A Fistful of Dollars, talking of Clint Eastwood. And, oh, wow, it was just a completely different experience to watch it.
It is.
In the cinema, you could really understand, it spoke much more clearly. And whenever you watch them on them tiny little, TV, even if you've got a decent-sized TV, it just doesn't have the same scope.
No. You can watch a film at the cinema and come out thinking, wow, and then you watch a film on TV and you go, it was all right.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah.
Worse.
I know exactly what you mean. Exactly.
But I think with Larry Crown, you'd be okay watching that on the small screen because it's a human-based story.
Right.
But I think it's a shame that film didn't make more of an impact. I think it was a bit of a mistake. It came out on the same day as Transformers.
Because Transformers stole the thunder, as it were.
Yeah, because me and Annette went into that, and there was 4 of us in the screen. Me and Annette were 2 of them, and there was another couple. Then we go into Transformers, and it's sold out.
God.
And we came out of Larry Crown, and they gave us these questionnaires to fill in. Would you recommend this film, and what did you like and what you didn't? So we gave it glowing reviews. Big Tom Hanks fans. Well,
I had my brush with him. I worked on a film called Charlie Wilson's War, but we never actually ended up filming. Long story short, there was really bad weather in Morocco where we were filming, and the time had elapsed. So we never kind of ended up filming. But the plus side was that I spent 5 days on a mountaintop in Morocco, sharing a hotel with Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts and Ned Beatty. I don't know if you remember Ned Beatty.
Well, I certainly do remember Ned Beatty, yeah.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman. We were all up there. It was amazing. It was an incredible gig. And I thought the film was great as well. But, the highlight of my stay was playing charades with Ned Beatty and his wife. That was, really, really funny. And,
do you not look at something like that and think, you know what, this is weird. I'm playing charades with Ned Beatty and his wife. That would freak me out, I think.
Yeah, it did a bit. It certainly did a bit. So, it was quite funny. Really, really funny. That was a highlight of my 2007.
Yeah, that wouldn't be an easy one to top that year, would it, really?
No, that was a good one, sir.
What's been your highlight so far this year? Have you got one?
This year, well, I think really is playing to the Pentagon. Doing a play for the Pentagon in the US was pretty insane. it was amazing to kind of be invited and to play for them. So that is definitely the highlight of this year. But hoping that I can top that.
Yes, definitely. What would top that with something to do with Tower Block or the progression on the book
Yeah,
page
I think.
that
Well,
you're
I
working
just think
on?
it'd be great to just keep working this year. If I can squeeze in, maybe 2 or 3 other films, that'd be amazing. That'd be great. I could just do another 2 films.
Brilliant.
I know it's a
But yeah,
tall order considering we're in September. Well, we'll be going into August pretty soon. But if I could do 2 more films, that would be amazing. I'd be a happy man.
that's the homework you've just set for yourself then, is it?
It's been really nice talking to you, Stuart.
And that was the conclusion to the chat that Nabil and I had. Hopefully you enjoyed that past hour's show. I know I certainly did. And hopefully Nabil does actually keep me up to date with progress on Tower Block and the other films that he's planning on working this year, as well as just life in general. He was a really, really easy bloke to chat to. Hopefully you found it the same as well. If you want to drop him a bit of feedback, let him know that you were listening, or if you're any producers or writers or whatever and you've got some projects for him to work on, I'm going to put his contact details in the show notes for this. So if you right click on the file name, if you're listening to this through iTunes, you'll see his details there. For those of you who are listening through an alternate way, you can hit him up on Twitter. His Twitter name is Actor Nabil, ACTORNABIL. You can get hold of me in the usual way, so email me at frompage2screen@gmail.com. You can send me a tweet from page to screen, and also the newly updated Facebook page. So you can either do a search for From Page to Screen on there, or hit me up with my real life everyday name, Stuart Bannerman, BANNERMAN, first name Stuart, STUART. So thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you all soon. Bye bye.